Welcome back to the Occult Rejects. Today we got a guest who should fit into the show almost suspiciously well. Because if you spend any time listening to the Occult Rejects, you already know that the border between occultism, conspiracy, altered states of consciousness, spirituality, psychedelics, secret societies, and the question of what the hell reality actually is tends to get pretty thin around here. So joining us today is Stilo Free, and unfortunately, Dot 420 couldn't make it, from the Outside Minds podcast, a show built around exploring exactly that territory. Across well over 100 episodes, Outside Minds has gone down rabbit holes involving everything from Aleister Crowley, Helena Blavatsky, Rosicrucianism, and mysticism to psychedelics, out-of-body experiences, NDEs, surveillance technology, artificial intelligence, secret societies, conspiracies, and the possibility that consciousness itself may play a much larger role in the construction of reality that our ordinary materialist understanding allows. What I especially wanted to get into today with this guy is not simply another conversation where we trade conspiracy theories back and forth, because underneath a lot of those topics they cover seems to be a much bigger philosophical question. If consciousness affects the way we experience reality, how do we determine where legitimate mystical experience ends and interpretation begins? Where conspiracy research ends and belief begins, and whether the different occult and spiritual systems people have developed throughout history are describing completely different things or attempting to describe the same underlying phenomenon through different languages. There are probably about 50 rabbit holes we could disappear into from there. So rather than trying to predict where this thing is going to end up, let's just bring in Stilo. But before we introduce him, let me introduce the other rejects that we got on the show. What is going on, Judith? How are you? So happy you could make it today.
Thank you for having me. As always, it's always a pleasure. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Brandon. It's been a long time. And welcome, Stelio. And for everybody else, welcome. Looking forward to your comments. And you could always find me on YouTube, X, and Spreaker as the Loon.
Oh yeah, thank you very much for making it, Judith. I appreciate it. And I know you love your conspiracies too, so this should be fun. Yeah, my man Magus, Brandon, what is going on, sir? Thank you.
You're so welcome, Nick. Thank you for having me. Even upon the traveling in the astral ways, I was able to make it. I'm so happy to be here with the Loon, Judith herself, Nick, and now meeting Stilo. Again, thank you, Eris Nocterion. The hair is down and we're getting crazy today. The great dystopian nature of our world is ever spiraling more and more, and it's good for these types of conversations to be had, because the crazier it gets, the more ordered we get, and the more ordered we get is the more conversations in a community we are building. So this is going to be exciting. The merging of minds, the rejects, Outside Minds podcast, the Loon with Magus and the media. Let's get to it.
Oh yeah, right. I definitely think it will be a fun conversation. And finally, Stilo, please plug anything, promote anything that you would like. Let people know where they can find all your and Dot 420's amazing work.
Yes, sir. Stilo Free from the Outside Minds podcast. You can find me there on all the social medias, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all that. Just follow us at Outside Minds podcast. And like Cardinal was saying before, we like to explore the intersection between conspiracy, spirituality, psychedelics, how that all ties into, secret societies, mysticism, the nature of reality. There's a point where it all converges, and we like to explore all angles of it. You know what I mean? So if you're into that kind of stuff, then I think you're going to enjoy this conversation.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much for making it, my man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. So kind of like how I normally ask most people, new guests or whatever on the show, how did you end up finding yourself, like, even, I guess, was it conspiracies? I would assume that's how it worked for me. I got into conspiracies and then the occult. Is that how it worked for you? And then you eventually started podcasting? Like, how did you end up getting into it?
Yeah, so when I was like 18 or 19, I watched the documentary called Zeitgeist or something like that, which is like, I think that's a lot of people that are within my community around my age group. That's kind of like the what got him into like the whole conspiracy thing. So once that happened, I kind of was always like on the like, okay, like 9/11 was an inside job, you know, like and then kind of just like, you know, like on the know with like all that kind of stuff. But years and years and years later, I started to just listen to different podcasts and stuff, and my buddy was getting me into different kind of things. I started looking up hermeticism, and then I was studying like hermeticism hardcore for like a week or something like that. And then I had like a spontaneous kundalini awakening, where I was like in this like involuntary lotus pose where I'm like doing like these mantras. I was doing like Om, and I felt like omnipresence. So ever since then, I got like re-intrigued by like the esoteric occult kind of stuff, because that always ties into like conspiracies and like even like psychedelics, the nature of reality, as I mentioned before, and stuff like that. So that was kind of like my intro into starting my show and talking about the things I talk about.
Did you say involuntary lotus pose? Like you were put into that without your will?
Yeah, so I didn't really do as much meditation before, and when I would try to meditate it, I didn't really know what I was doing. But when this happened, I was just like contemplating like hermeticism, like ancient Egypt. I was like reading about Thoth and stuff like that, and I started to get like a really clear understanding of like the theory of special relativity and gravity and stuff like this, and I'm just like, oh shit, like Einstein's a genius, like we're like electric beings and like an electric universe, and I'm like, all these things are just starting to click before that I had known before, like we're all one and stuff like that, but I'm starting to understand them on a deeper level, and then reality just starts to break down around me, and then I'm like, oh shit, I feel like I'm having a stroke or something like that. So when I lay down, that's when I involuntarily go into this pose, and then I see a silhouette of the Buddha in the same pose as me, and I'm feeling like omnipresence. I'm feeling like I'm like having like an enlightenment right now. It was very much like a DMT trip. I haven't done DMT at that time, but I was like, oh shit, that was like a psychedelic experience. And it was just from I was smoking cannabis and like contemplating philosophy and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it was very it wasn't really mushrooms, LSD or anything like that, but it was very psychedelic, you know what I mean?
That is that's interesting, the whole stroke thing that you mentioned. I had an experience one time that, well, multiple ones in 1 week that freaked me out enough that, like, even physically, I just felt fucked up. And when I went to the hospital and tried to explain to them, like, I think there's something wrong with me, I can't remember exactly what I told them, but whenever I told them, gave them symptoms or ideas that I was having a stroke.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so it weirded me out because I was already weirded out by the situation and paranoid as fuck and thinking all this weird shit already in my head. And then you walk into a hospital, think you get help, and they're rushing you into a room and sticking shit all on you and into a machine. You start getting even more freaked out. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you didn't even tell me what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So to me, I was just like, oh, what, am I getting kidnapped now? They know what I know. Like,
yeah.
Was there anything that induced it for you or anything like that?
Yo, eventually they're like, we think you have migraines. And then there was an issue that I had with my blood that went away, which I find very interesting. I still want to look into that a little bit more and see actually what that was. But
wow,
yeah.
Well, it's crazy to think how our like the equilibrium of our brain and our body, and how all it takes is for a slight mishap to happen within the whole system for these mystical states to like all of a sudden, you know, you're just like they say you're having epileptic seizures. At the same time as you're also like having some kind of psychedelic state.
You know,
well, all that's
go ahead.
I was gonna say real quick, all that stuff is combined. I have a friend who has epilepsy, and when I was looking into like Robert Monroe and the Monroe Institute and binaural beats and all that stuff, I was learning that the way our brains perceive reality, our left brain and our right brain are like they're not synchronized, you know what I mean? So when you synchronize them, that's when you get into these expanded states of consciousness. And it's the same reason why some people are like on LSD or have like these weird like psychedelic experience. They'll see things like Hindu deities and stuff like that, and people are like, okay, like the Hindus might have been on like some sort of hallucinogenics or something like that, and it could just really just be transcendental meditation, you know what I mean? Because it's all the same thing, because what you're really doing is you're synchronizing the left hemisphere with the right hemisphere, and that's what binaural beats do. That's why the Monroe Institute kind of teaches you how to do lucid dreaming, astral projection, remote viewing, things of that nature.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to think how we forget, they call it the memory hole. Our memories are so short that we kind of when we go through these altered states, then we actually project onto these weird experiences, certain, like you said, Hindu deities. It's like you may have forgotten that you read a book about these deities, and all of a sudden now when you're in these states, Now you're seeing those things, but it was because of it's already within the subconscious realms as you're experiencing something that we don't know. It's very similar to what Jacques Vallée talks about, or what Carl Jung talks about with these altered experiences of the ectoplasmate, or these things that seem to come out from outside into our world, but really it's from the inside out into our own perceptual like consciousness experiences.
Yeah, I get that. I think even for myself, there was just like certain things or symbolism, or well, I should say more, I guess, of the artwork that would go with Christianity and Catholicism that seemed to speak to me more after having experiences. And I think that's due to having that as a background. You know, I was already exposed to that stuff prior.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and Carl Jung states that exactly, Nick, that until we all should go back into the religious motifs of our youth and past so we could truly understand and unfold our own psyche. You know, because those are the things that are integrated into our nervous systems, and we kind of rebel against those things, and then we can never, as Jung states, we can never actually make whole who we are, because until we make that unconscious conscious, we don't really understand how we experience these things in all of the things that we do, like the Christian motifs.
It's kind of like that idea where we kind of have like these scripts running through our head that we tell ourselves all the time that we over time we've just not become conscious of anymore. You know, is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly, definitely.
It almost is I would even say maybe Judith and Brandon. I don't know about you because I don't know about your practices or whatever, but just from listening to them, when you do shadow work and stuff, I even think that like if you go back far enough, it's almost as if like you're going to start like, I think a lot of people will kind of like think that the apps on the phone is everything that's kind of controlling you if you were to look at being a program. And that's to an extent for sure. But what about the operating system that's actually running all those apps in the background? You still got to get to that motherfucker.
That's exactly it.
And that's stuff that you forget about that's been so ingrained in you. It doesn't need to be remembered. It just controls everything already.
But that's a level of self-honesty and self-accountability that a lot of people have trouble taking. That's why it's hard for many people to put the two together. To understand the big picture, what's going, is a shame is to understand the big picture, what's going on within ourselves.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that actually, the same thing, you guys, it reminds me of what Prometheus Rising is about, what Robert Anton Wilson's work and Timothy Leary in his 8 Circuits of Consciousness, is that like the analogy of the software hardware is exactly what you're talking about, Nick, is that the software, these 8 Circuits of Consciousness, it's the robot, they just run without us knowing about it. And the hardware is this body, nervous system, brain interconnection with the world. But again, these are just words and metaphors for how we are embodied beings. And until we start doing these practices, these things will run our lives and control it. And this is exactly then bringing in the conspiracy, the dystopian nature of these things. This is what the dark sorcerers know, right? Edward Bernays, the father of propaganda, is the grandson of Freud, who truly wrote the book for the subconscious id superego. And so it's like to know that we're being completely controlled at all times, and doesn't have anything to do with the conscious mind. It's how do you tap into the subconscious mind, and then all the layers underneath that. Carl Jung states that we are a myriad of like basically personas and different psychologies within our own mental structures, and we're continually acting these things out. So it's like, who is Nick, or who is Judith, who is Brandon? It's like Brandon is a myriad of psychoses at all times, almost, until my practice, and I'm able to harmonize these things to balance them out so I can be whole in the world.
Well, it gets back into like psychedelics and plant medicine and stuff like that, because the reason why that kind of stuff is so successful is because it forces you into the shadow work. It forces you to the core of who you are, and it does make you communicate with your subconscious so you can address those programs that are kind of running beneath the surface. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. LSD is a drug. It's a neuroprogramming drug, which is then why you know,
The
MK Ultra, the
stuff.
CIA, and everybody was using those things is because it gets underneath the hardware system into the software and can help. And then you can reprogram people completely.
Using trauma. Yes.
Yeah, trauma-based mind control.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was just
proof
gonna
that
say,
works.
Prove that works, exactly.
oh, yeah, the CIA did enough to prove that
Oh
works.
yeah.
Steelo, you did mention the gateway tapes or the gateway
Mhm.
experiments. Have you ever tried any of the tapes or anything yourself?
So yeah, I was actually doing a Focus 15 not too long ago, which is known as
Oh,
like
okay.
the land of like
Alright.
no time. I had a guest on my show not too recently called her name is Corey Muafo, and she's like part of like the Bledsoe Network and all those stuff. So she like sky watches and stuff like that. She does like meditations, and she was saying one time that she had done this Focus 15 meditation, and then she met like her future self and like her past self, and like she was like really trying to start a family, and then she saw that her future self had kids, so it was like a full circle moment that came like was really reassuring for her. So I had done the same meditation, and then I had gone in, and I had a very similar thing happen to me where I met my past self, and I had dealt with like some things with trauma and stuff like that, and there was like some apologies to the self that happened, like things of that nature. It was very therapeutic and like spiritual things of that nature, you know what I mean? But yeah, I've really been trying to get into like astral projection. I've lucid dreamed a few times, but that was the reason why I was so interested in the Monroe Institute. But yeah, like I've done like a few of the tapes and stuff like that, but I haven't done fully like the whole program and stuff like that. But it is a really good aid for meditation. Because though I don't know if you guys know or not, I'm pretty sure you do, but the way binaural beats works is they put one frequency in one ear and the other frequency in the other, and when your brain listens to it, it consolidates the two, and it plays a frequency that's not even playing in your headphones, and it somehow it helps to expand your consciousness. So so yeah, I've done like a few of the gateway tapes, but I haven't done the whole program.
That's cool. I think you might have made it even farther than I did. I think I only did like 3 or 4 tapes in, and I had already started noticing like, for me, whenever I've only had this experience 4 times. There was just like a certain thing that happens over and over again, and I already noticed that happening very quickly. So I was like, this obviously will get me there faster than I've been used to on my own. So it's definitely doing something. And yeah, the binaural. What do you think, Brandon? What do you think about the binaural stuff? Because I've used that a lot myself too.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think 2 things. I think it really works when you're actually using the correct program on the computer. I think if you go to YouTube and you're just listening to binaural beats, it actually is a placebo effect and doesn't actually do what it says it's doing. And that's because of the recording that you're getting from, say, a YouTube recording isn't actually getting all of the different activities that connects to the different aspects of the brain. Because I've actually been into, when I lived in Boulder, multiple times, I did whole sequences at a place that goes through the whole thing, and they connect all the nodes to your head as at the same time as you have the headphones on, and it's connected to a computer that is solely just for binaural beats. And so it's because you need all the different nodes connected to the different temporal the lobes of the brain. So then the beats actually know what to give you for frequencies. So because the idea is that it's harmonizing the different aspects of and different frequencies of the brain. And so again,
gangster on that shit, huh?
Yeah, it wasn't cheap, but it was quite effective, because the idea is that due to the stressors and the different hormones and your different systems, your brain is really like you get to. The idea is not only to take you into different rest relaxation states, but it's to help balance out and reorganize your brain structure so that you can actually make change and long-term change in your world. And so it's really good for people that have many different mental disorders and diseases and different things like that, because a lot of it comes down to, is your brain running properly and doing the correct functions that is going on. So again, it's like I think that I used to listen to YouTube binaural beats and different things on Spotify and stuff all the time, and I was like, oh, this is helping, and it may be actually helping, but it's not doing what binaural beats is supposed to be doing, with the full system of putting it all over and actually measuring it and giving you what your brain needs, not just the
It's like a custom experience.
It's a custom experience. And it kind of leads me into like the difference between pop astrology and traditional astrology, where pop astrology is this broad scope of a placebo effect that's not really real. And that's kind of my hatred of pop astrology, especially with Kaiva and with all her studies and everything she does. It's like her and I are continually trying to be like, guys, pop astrology is nonsense. And just because you're like a fucking Sagittarius or Aries, like sun sign, that actually doesn't mean anything, because you and everyone else in the world has that same month. But if you can get down to the exact time and get you a whole diagram of exactly where everything, all your houses are, and all the whole birth chart. Now this is specific for you, not just specific for you and a million other people that were born in that month. It's just like the binaural beats. Now this is specific to you, your brain, how your brain was born into this world, and where you're at right now on this planet.
You know, it's interesting, not to get off the topic, but Jamie Paul Lamb just recently put something on Substack, and I was checking it out. I didn't read too much of it, but pretty much the same thing you were saying, Brandon. He was even saying, if you were going to go by like one sign, he says, I forget which one it was, but he says, I wouldn't even use the sun sign if you're really going to try to tell people your behavior or your, you know, who they're dealing with. He says that that's how screwed up pop astrology is that people don't even realize that.
I read that same article, actually. That was a great article.
You know what I'm talking about then, right?
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it's your rising sign. It's because that's based upon your time. So if you're not going off of the whole chart, okay, that's fine. It's like, but if you're going to go off of something, it's like your rising sign is at that exact moment, you know. And if Kaiva were here, she'd be all like, it's because of numbers and math and astronomy and stuff like that. And I listen as much as I can. That's why we have her here and on when she comes on, is because she can fucking go deep into it. And even right now, she's doing an expo at a market, and people come up and they ask her the same questions, and she does it very nicely, where she tells them, it's like, well, just so you know, and then she lays it out there very seamlessly. And so it's a really important thing, because the psyop of pop astrology is what then gives the occult and the magical scene a bad name. And I even try to talk shit about Manly P. Hall at certain times. As much as I love his work, he kind of was psyoped into the 12, you know, the 12 different signs, and you are this or that. And it's like, well, not really, Manly, but he can't get it all right. You know, his work is brilliant.
Cut him a little slack.
Cut him a little slack. His work is brilliant. So
yeah, no, actually, there is certain stuff that he has put out that I actually think people don't even realize what he's saying.
Oh yeah, The Lost Keys of Freemasonry is one of the I've read that like 6 times, and I've cried like 3 times while listening to it, or while reading it.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool that you tried that tape. Judith, have you ever done binaural stuff?
Haven't done it yet. No, I have not. Because I feel certain things like that, like Brandon said, you do have to go to a certain professional, and you have to. I feel it has to be done right. I try not to jump on the mass-produce situations.
Yeah.
Because, well, I mean, it has its plus and minuses in my opinion. Yes, it could open up the door for someone else to have a new technique to try. But like Brandon was mentioning, the in-depth individual aspect of it may be lost. So I'd rather do it with a professional to get the full effect than the surface effects, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes complete sense to me. Yeah.
You know, I'm totally guilty of using YouTube and Apple Podcasts for and Spotify.
Well, it's where the resources are. Like up until Brandon said it, I didn't know I could go to an institute and actually get it done right.
Yeah.
You know, I thought it was something put out there for you to try on your own. And the mind is a very delicate thing.
Yeah.
And you may think you know your mind, but those little things, like you guys mentioned LSD, not everybody could use LSD.
No,
the effects may not be pleasurable.
I actually don't recommend it as much as I've used it in my life, and it's actually was what helped get me to where I'm at. You know, it's like I am one lucky man where many times I've used it high dosages. I shouldn't be here with the sound mind that I have.
Psychedelics are scary, man.
Not even scary; they're dangerous.
Yeah.
They're dangerous. And I was a part of the hippie electronic jam scene for a long time. And it was like, I watched so many, I think Crowley says, he calls it the wanderers of the waste. It's like there's many brothers and sisters of ours that I've seen get lost in the grand desert, wanderers of the waste. They burn out. And it goes back to what you initially were saying, Stilo, about your Kundalini experience. Is that the reason the yogis and the Jewish mystics and just people like they say you have to be 40 years old, you have to own a business, you have to have a family, you have to be grounded, and you have already needed to have study these things for a long time. The yogis will bring you through the 8 limbs of yoga, right? Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, and now that you've built your body and your temple into a way, your nervous system, so it can actually withstand the amount of light, energy, whatever term, so you don't burn your nervous system, because it's about the nervous system, right? It's like, without the nervous system being able to be grounded and in control, it's so easy to burn out. And that's why the term burnout is real. It's like, you're a burnout, bro. You've burnt out your entire nervous system, and now you can't make sentence structures anymore to make people actually understand you.
Oh, I've been there.
Then I've been there. It's like, I know what it's like to all of a sudden be like, words.
I can even talk as fast as the thoughts are coming in.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, and what's the point of these experiences if we can't transmit them to others and speak about it in a way that makes sense, that we can then give our experiences credence to the normal individual who may never have these experiences because they are esoteric experiences.
The one thing, Stilo, so you are like actually, I guess I use the word occult. I guess people can call it plenty of other things, but you are actually kind of like interested and do study that stuff yourself besides being a conspiracy podcaster, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm actually in this
it's a little
group chat.
different.
I have a few buddies that are like Masons and Rosicrucians and stuff like that. I'm not in any of those groups or anything like that. I consider myself like a self-initiate, you know what I mean? So I'm super interested in all of it. I think that's why I'm friends with most of those guys, but yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah, no, I get it. No, it's just very interesting. Just from my experience, it's just I know like a lot of sometimes conspiracy shows. They don't. I guess they don't think. I guess as you would. It's like one Freemason, unless they have a podcast. Then the Freemason's okay. If they have a podcast and it can get them views, that's okay. But then they'll shit on anybody. Every Mason's fucking a kid somewhere in the temple.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or like, not even knocking it. Again, I'm not the one who has the problem with the religion. They seem to just have a problem with the cultists. Even a lot of Christian podcasters, I'm just like, they would not, I don't think, entertain the occult like you do as a conspiracy podcaster. So I don't know if you're a Christian or not.
I think a lot of people fear what they don't understand, number one. And then
that's what I keep saying. Yes.
Well, I was listening a little bit to your episode with the girl from the Eastern Star, and you guys made a point. So I forget who said it, but they were saying like, yeah, I used to think this knowledge should be for everybody, but then they were saying it's too complex for people to understand, and that's why I think the disconnect between Hitler and Blavatsky came from, because he had this whole obsession with her writings and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, Aryan race is this, that, and it's like, that's not even what she was talking about with the Aryan root races and stuff like that. So it's like, that's why I think they have that phrase, you can't cast pearls before swine, because not everybody is really going to pick up on the esoteric info as opposed to just being able to pick up the exoteric. You know what I mean?
And you know what? I think then when those swine decide to tell everybody else what those pearls mean, that's what fucks everything up.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the profane against the sacred. Those uninitiated individuals who don't understand the symbols for what they're, the symbol for the arcana, for the mystery that is trying to, because it's ineffable experiences that like put themselves through the mysteries, and we understand them through the symbolic nature of our own reality. And it's like, if you haven't done the research or the study and the practices to understand what these things actually mean, you're just repeating nonsense like an NLP, like an NPC.
you know, that could be why these mystery schools through antiquity have just become so watered down, because I think the process for initiation used to be much more refined,
Yeah.
finding people who would understand it and really putting people through who would actually help keep the knowledge going, as opposed to just having it be like some sort of political party or just some underground society that just gets things done in the community and things like that. You know what I mean? Which is why I think through time, you know, when you get to the Freemasonic lodges now and stuff like that, which is why I think a lot of them have a bad rap, because they got some bad apples come through. People don't understand the knowledge, and then just people using their power and its structure for, you know, evil, you know,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
Do you think it's not understanding the knowledge or refusing to understand the knowledge?
Yeah, both.
There's a difference between the two.
Yeah,
It could-
definitely. Yeah.
So to piggyback on that, it could be understanding the knowledge and then using it for self gain or using it for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean? So it could be a myriad of those things, I think. But yeah, all three.
Yeah.
That's a good point, though. Even once you start kind of coming into, you know, I think at one point, like when you really start getting into this shit, and especially if you have your own experiences or do like your own shadow work, you'll start to get an idea. Like everybody's mind pretty much works the same. You just maybe people have buttons you have to hit a little bit harder to get them to work, but humans all pretty much. You know, you got to find the right fear, and you can get the right, you know.
Oh yeah.
You know, or feed into somebody's desires, and you can manipulate them. I do think you're making a good point. You know, after a magical experience for me, and I'll even keep it real, this is one of the reasons why, I mean, there's a few reasons why I haven't gone like really crazy with this stuff, is because I was even thinking in my head, like, how many times after I have these experiences am I going to keep going with the right decision and not take advantage of people from having it?
Mm.
You know, I mean, if I do it 10 times, am I going to be successful at that? Or, you know, it might even fuck you up physically and mentally. I don't know. But like, you know, what I'm getting at is just that, you know, eventually one time, who's to say I'm not going to open up my eyes and be like, you know what? I think I'm going to be a piece of shit and actually try to make money, sell this and that, manipulate these motherfuckers.
Mm. I see
You
what
know,
you're saying.
and it's like, you know,
But yeah, you're right, Nick. And I think that's what's so important about the actual practice that's rooted in a tradition or lineage, as much as at times I think tradition and lineage get shit on, is that the idea is that the virtue or the ethics and the moral structures are implanted there. And that's
Yeah.
what the metaphors are for. That's what the mythology is for.
Yeah.
And so once you understand the mythological stories of what it means to be a dark sorcerer in comparison to somebody who's a hero on their journey, and they're trying to bring back knowledge to their village, it's that you, upon the journey of the great work, you are alchemizing yourself. You are going through the alchemical process, which is hopefully going to, if done correctly, burn away all of that dead ash, that leaden self, the mundane part of you that would want to take advantage of people. And so I think that is kind of what is the difference in why I despise the lower magic users of the kind of nonsensical witchcraft pagan magical community out there who do spell work and these types of things. And I'm not saying don't do your spell work, don't not do your sigils, but the idea is that why I like talking to Alan Chapman so much, and I do recommend everyone going over to my Alan Chapman interview, because he's really good at, he came from the chaos magic scene and realized that it's like, why did Peter Carroll take away the great work? Why take away the understanding that the divine is within this if we can get away and uncover these things and allow truth to be unveiled and unconcealed to us? And truth unconceals itself to us when we go along the path of the divine. And then all of the low magic stuff we do is actually, you don't even need to do it, because the great work itself is going to, you know, magnetize yourself towards the things that the spell work would do. Or say you want a better partner, say you want more money, say you want these things. Well, the great work, once you start going through the process of actually going through the magical unfoldment of alchemy, you will then hopefully you can magnetize yourself. You become the person that you want to be with, and that person then comes into your spheres. Then the job that you want comes into your spheres because the universe is working for you, instead of you having to manipulate other people.
Yes.
Which is then my problem with NLP, as a few people brought up in the comments, is that NLP is a manipulation for manipulation's sake. It's fine tuning these things instead of having what magic is for all. And if we're going off the dictums of Crowley, is that, you know, every man and every woman is a star, you know, do what thou wilt, but no one's saying love, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, right? That idea of attraction and love and understanding the mysteries through the ineffable, instead of the other half, which is like that Sith dark sorcerer nonsense that I'm like, what are you, your karma? Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is like your karma, you're fucked in the future. You know what I mean? It's like,
I feel like that's a lot why Kabbalah gets a bad rap, because when you understand like the tree of life, when you're traversing the tree of life to ascend it, you're basically like going through the virtues and refining the human spirit to be Adam Kataman, so to speak, so you can be back in union with the Godhead and whatnot. But what a lot of these people do when they're learning these modalities and stuff like that, especially like clip-off initiation and stuff like that, they're using it for self-service, as you mentioned, as opposed to aligning your free will with God's will, which is why I think a lot of people will research Kabbalah, get a slight understanding for it, see what other people are doing with it, and then just call the whole thing evil, synagogue of Satan, when the actual practice of it is to refine the human spirit, like you said. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's great. I completely agree.
I have a question, because you guys mentioned it earlier for everyone here. Do you think those nefarious and abusive thoughts and misuse of spell work, as Nick put it, is due to not being grounded, not having that grounding force? Because like you guys said earlier, there's a reason why you have to be a certain age, you have to have certain responsibilities to help ground you here before you start playing around in the ethers, so to say.
Well, also too, the way I like to explain it is, you know, if there's a right hand path, there's a left hand path. There's a left hand path for a reason as well. And there was someone saying on my I said to someone on my post, like, you could take the left hand path, but they both lead to source, and the left hand path is going to be much more longer, probably a lot more stressful too. And I think like the way I was thinking, like clip off initiation, it's like almost like the way someone described it to me, it's like you're like bringing yourself down into the depths so you can get slingshotted back up. You know what I mean? So it's almost like you're bringing on all this bad karma in order for your spirit to have to absolve it. You know what I mean? Which is where you're supposed to end up, which is why I think a lot of people who do like left hand path magic, dark magic, they don't realize that their life is going to be so shit, because it's supposed to end up being shit so you can end up returning back to source. You know what I mean? Which is why I think people like Aleister Crowley had like a trajectory like he had. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
No, I can see what you mean.
I can see that. I still have troubles with the definitions of this left-hand path, right-hand path thing that I don't really quite understand all the time. I think, Judith, like, that's a great question, and I think it's really important that it's like somebody asked me. I have some students, and they ask me, martial arts students, and I personally integrate whether they know it or not, and I tell them, so they've consented whether they know or not, is that like magic and martial arts can be integral, because it's both an alchemical path working, whether it's external or internal, and I think that you're doing it together no matter what. But the idea is that until you know yourself, until you actually, and you don't even it's like, what does it mean to know yourself? You know, do you ever know yourself? These are the questions. It's like, well, until you can finally get to the place in your life where you're like, I actually don't know who I am, and I must confront my own despair, anxiety, and angst. And when I can finally say that and actually start confronting that, then I can start to understand where are my value structures coming from? Are they coming from outside of myself? Are they coming from these expedient means, all these things out here that I'm trying to make my self-worth from? Or am I finally realizing, yes, that's what I was doing, and now I want to find some place to then, as Judith is saying, I want to root myself and ground myself. And in the Taoists, like in my Tai Chi practice with my students, I'm like, we must sink our energy. It's called a sinking practice, because once I can sink my breath and my energy into my gut, into the furnace of the Dantian, then I can root myself into something, and then I can build everything from that. But I find that the magical community and the religious community and all these people, they want to go up here, right away. They want to go into the higher supernals, into heaven. They want to go into the higher thoughts. But I'm like, you've built your higher thinking on a house of cards. And until you build a foundation for yourself to actually grow from, which means you have to actually ask the hard questions about who am I and what am I doing? And am I, as we started this whole thing off on, Stilo, is talking about the stories. Am I only, and one of my favorite movies, I Heart Huckabees. And it's like, how am I not myself? How am I not myself? And you got to continue asking that question, is like, what are the stories that I continually tell myself?
Mm-hmm.
Are they true? Have I lied to myself this whole time? Am I stuck in some kind of cognitive dissonance where all of a sudden the reality of my words and the reality of my actions don't line up? And then have I also gotten stuck in this thing called naive realism where I think that my perceptions are actually the experiences had instead of just understanding them as they are? My perceptions are just that. I'm never actually ever experiencing reality for what it is, but only perceiving my perceived perception of an actual perceived object. And so it's like, that's how we get into Operation Mindfuck, where I'm all like, I'm all over the place now, and I need to ground myself.
Yeah, I think it's important to ground yourself in physical reality before jumping up to like the Sopranos, like you said, because I think a lot of the reason why we get people who do such like a hardcore switch from like occultism back to like their general spirituality, like Christianity or something like that. Like take like Kat Von D, for instance. She was super into like making her own tarot deck and like all these candles and, you know, occultism and stuff like that. And then she's hardcore Christianity. It's probably because these people are having mystical experiences without having any groundwork within the physical world, where they're building this system where, like you said, your nervous system can actually take this light that's going to enter it when you enter these mystical states.
I've actually blamed that whole situation on Kanye West's religious things.
Let's hear. I want to hear this.
No, I'm just saying. Like, I think he's an occultist, and I think he has experiences. Well, all of a sudden, he starts. Like,
absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's kind of like the way of him either dealing with it or whatever.
That's good. Well, and on the Kat Von D thing is, I want to state that I think what happens is people are slingshotting themselves into one extreme into the other. Mm-hmm. And so she was rebelling against the religion of her past. And she went so far into this witchcraft, like extreme like religious structures. And then she found that wasn't giving her what she wanted. And so now she's slingshotted to the other side, where she's so evangelical Christian, and she's going to completely like conform to whatever the next thing is, where she's now friends with Jay Dyer, who's one of the biggest grifter Orthodox bros that, in the world. And the man's a fucking moron. Like, I used to
check this guy out.
It sucks because I used to support him, but he like has made a shift over the last how many years into he's lying. Because if you're an Orthodox Christian, you are an occultist, and I don't give a what you say. Like, the Christos, Jesus Christ, is an occult force. No matter if you believe he's the one and true only Son of God or whatnot, all these religions are occult, because occult just means hidden forces. And so it's like they're all using hidden forces to structure their rituals and ceremonies. And now you're going to try to tell me, especially if you believe in the Trinity, that you're not understanding that the Trinity is projecting down the one true God into one man. And how did he get those to begin with? Especially if you're talking about some kind of virgin birth. It's just the like parthenogenesis, right? Like it's complete and utter crazy.
It's funny you bring that up, because I was thinking about it earlier, and I was thinking like how, a lot of Jews say like Jesus was a Jew, he preached the Torah and stuff like that. And I'm thinking like Old Testament, New Testament, like, okay, like what Jesus was probably doing, he probably learned the mystical tradition of Kabbalah, and he probably was teaching it in his own way, because it's kind of like the same thing that you were just explaining now, how Christianity is itself like a form of mysticism, occultism. But back in the day, it had got so far twisted and distorted that it became like this, how do you say it, like polytheistic kind of like worshiping like not the right things and stuff like that. And once he came onto the scene, he was probably like, oh no, you guys are getting the teachings all wrong. It's more like this, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like what's happening today, like within the church, where people are kind of like taking these teachings and misinterpreting them. And a lot of people, like especially within like the New Age community that actually get it, they're kind of like, oh no, Jesus was actually saying this, you know what I mean? So I kind of feel like there's kind of like some sort of parallel there, if you will.
Well, I think the whole situation with the swines, the pearl before swines. Same situation. I guarantee you, at some point, at some times, there was probably some shit worth listening to and experiencing at these churches.
Yes.
And eventually, because the uninitiated, there'll probably always be more of those than the initiated. Yeah, I mean, they just end up just, I think it just always happens like that until the numbers start to balance out better.
Well, no, you're completely right. And I mean, that's what esoteric means. It's for a select few, and the exoteric is for the masses. And so it's like the esoteric will always be for the select few, because many are called, but few will enter into the kingdom of heaven. And that's because to go through the hard work, go through the alchemical journey, it's not easy. And you have to confront your own neuroses, your own psychoses. You have to confront your own dark side. And until you understand that you are the monster that you hate on the outside, you are the monster that you fear at night. That until you do that, you can never actually come to the terms with that. I can actually be the hero on my journey. That's the only way to have courage. It's like you can't have courage in any other way until you realize that you are the bad guy, and the good guy of the same journey.
Yeah.
Stilo, you also, Judith, did you have something you wanted to add?
Oh, no. I'm good.
You sure?
Yes.
All right. I know you're into Kabbalah, correct?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, nice. And tarot?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm writing a book on the connection between the two. It's more of like a beginner's understanding, and I feel like it's more of like a documentation of me discovering like how the two systems are created. You know what I mean? So I figured like if I'm discovering this knowledge for myself, I might as well put it in the book format and try to put it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I actually think that's I highly suggest to use tarot on the Kabbalistic tree of life. Just to look at it like that, at some point.
Yeah. The when you figure out that the four minor arcana suits and the major trumps are actually 5 stories within themselves, like as far as like even like the major arcana, like the Fool's Journey, you can see that it gets actually mapped out on the tree of life, and then you see like the places that are at correspond to like the meanings and the archetypes that are actually within the cards and stuff like that. And then also past that, you start to see like the tree of life symbolism and like some of the minor arcana suits and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, to understand that to understand it's a syncretic understanding of the Hermetic Kabbalah, right? That all these things. What's fascinating is to state how it is us humans who are the pattern creators and recognizers. And so that a lot of Jewish mystics, I think when you guys had right, Nick, when you had Justin Sledron, he actually doesn't like that stuff. He's all like, they're not of like the actual rabbis and Jewish mystics who are only practicing Jewish Kabbalah. They don't see it that way. But then when you get to more of the Hermetic Kabbalists, myself included, Eliphas Levi, right, in his Rituals and Dogma and his book of High Magic, he's the guy who helped really syncretize the system of placing the 22 major arcana on the paths and the 10 sephirah with the 10 court cards. And the whole structure. Fascinating enough, I think what's really important is to understand how it's the phantasmagoric, the imagination, right? That is where this all stems from, and like
principle of mentalism.
But it's more than that though, and I don't want to. And I think that's my problem with when I hear you say mentalism, and you may not be saying this, Stilo, so this isn't a dig on you.
Yeah, no worries.
But it's my dig on the Kabbalion and the fucking 3 initiates, and because that's
I do like that book though.
And that's again no dig on you either, Nick. It's just it's.
I'll give my little 2 cents after, but go ahead.
Yeah, and it's because he's a white guy who made this shit up. It's like he calls himself an adept, but really that's not a Hermetic text, and so that's where my
I see that
because it's not and a lot of people think it's like part of the Hermetic tradition, and it's really not. It's a new
I've heard
agey
that rhetoric before.
Made up.
The reason why I like it, especially because I read it like very early in my initiation journey, is
Oh yeah,
because like these concepts that it presents to you, if you can understand those concepts, you can understand a lot of concepts that are presented to you, like when you get like deeper into the occult traditions and stuff like that,
for
especially
sure.
like, you know, like the principle of polarity. That's why I brought up like the principle of mentalism, because I'm a big proponent in the fact that all this stuff is like happening through your mind and your imagination. That's why when you said the word imagination, that's
Yeah,
why I brought that up. You know what I mean?
love that. No, I know exactly what you
Yeah.
mean. And then
Yeah.
so I'm going to take it one step further. I'm going to add on to what you're saying. And so my issue with panpsychism is why when I hear just straight mental and mind, is my problem, is why I love Heidegger and why I despise the Enlightenment period and Cartesianism, is that when we fall too far into the mind body dichotomy and dualism, we there becomes a schism that falls suit into this huge philosophical problem and lack of embodiment. And so when we all think everything is mind, we forget that it's not. Everything is mind body. Everything is an
Yeah.
embodied
Absolutely.
experience of us enacting in a world. And so we are first actually just being in the world, and then we can break things into understanding that the mind is there. Because I do agree that
Yeah.
it is first the idea, it is first
Yeah.
the imagination, and then everything stems forth from that in creation.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And so it's small little things, but
Yeah.
I think it's really important, because once we understand that, it's like I don't experience the world as my mind separate from my body. I actually
Mhm.
experience it together, and then my mind kicks in, and now it's a second order existence where I can state that I can break things down into my mind, and I can break things down into how the body works, and what tools are made out of, and whatnot. So yeah.
I think the idea was put forth, especially why I think it's good for like beginners and stuff like that, because that's from a very like complex understanding. But I think the idea is put forth from because a lot of people are just they think the external world and just the physical body is what they identify with. So I think that's why that principle holds a lot of value for beginners and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
But to bring it back to the tarot, it's cool because the major arcana, when you look at itself like as the hero's journey and stuff like that, especially what I'm putting forth in my book, it's like major cosm, macrocosm, microcosm. It's not only a story of the individual self, but it's also a story as the universe. You know what I mean? So when you
Oh
look
yeah.
at like the Fool's card, that's like the zero. It's like kind of like the beginning of the universe, like pure potential and stuff like that. But that could also mean pure potential, new beginnings for like the self as an individual, new job, new relationship, things like that. You know what I mean? Which is why I
Oh
think,
yeah.
that's why I love tarot and its connection to mysticism. You know what
Have
I mean?
you read Alan Moore's Promethea?
No, I have not. Not yet.
I highly recommend that to be on the top of your list, because he really talks about how the major arcana going from 0 to 22, right? This whole experience of the 22 major arcana is an experience of the individual, and then he maps it out on how it's the actual experience of us going through our universe as it unfolds through different states of consciousness. It's fascinating.
Okay, nice, nice. I'm putting it.
Yeah,
Is it a comic book series?
yeah. It's
Oh
a graphic
shit, that's
novel.
tight.
Yeah. It's one of
Nice.
the greatest out there.
Hell
It's
yeah,
at the
hell yeah.
top. It's at the top of my canon.
Hmm.
I'll check that out. Hell yeah.
Judith, what are you attribute to tarot with Kabbalah and stuff like that?
Yes, to me they go hand in hand. So
That's what I
I
figured.
don't see how they could be seen separate, especially if you're looking into the past, especially because they have the correspondence with the major arcanas. I am interested because Stilo did mention where the minor arcanas fit in there too, and his outlook on that when he expand on that in his book.
As far as the minor arcana, so when you look into, I don't know how much you know about the tree of life and the 10 Sephiroth. So the idea is that you have the four worlds in Kabbalah, which are supposed to kind of correspond with the minor arcana suits. So I don't know the Hebrew names for them, but they correspond with like the classical elements to like
Yeah, Asya,
fire,
Bria,
which is
something else.
wands, water, which is cups, swords, which is air, and pentacles, which is earth. And these are supposed to correspond with kind of like the spiritual body, the mental body, the emotional body, and the physical body. So when you correspond like the four worlds with the four suits, you start to see that once you have like the 10 cards, like the 1 through 10 minor arcana, you can see that they're kind of attributed to like the Sephiroth. So when you get like to Sephiroth 1, you're basically putting like card 1, and each card is like let's say Ace of Cups, all that kind of stuff. It's like new beginning in physical reality, or new beginning in mental reality, or new beginning in your spiritual body, and things like that. So when you map it to these different correspondences on the chart, you can see that they kind of have like the same kind of like meanings or correspondences or archetypal energies and stuff like that. And once you start to understand this system on like a different side, it's much easier to like learn the deck and the cards, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people think that they're going to be learning 78 different cards, but in my system, in my book, I'm going to be teaching you that you're going to learn it not only in 5 different stories, but you're going to be seeing like the numerological and the Kabbalistic correspondences to each card and each archetype, you know what I mean?
Have you read The Mystical Kabbalah by Dio and Fortune?
I have not. I'm going to have to put it on my list.
Bro, that's if you're writing that book, she wrote the book already.
Yeah.
And it's called The Mystical Kabbalah by Dio and Fortune, just so you know. Not that you shouldn't write your book, but I think that is an invaluable
Oh yeah, I've seen this. I've
resource.
seen this. Yeah.
So you, the High Magic by Eliphas Levi, Dio and
I've heard of
Fortune's
that one too,
Mystical Kabbalah. Read both these books, and then that will give your book way more substance. Not that it's
Okay.
not already. I just think those two are really important. And all.
No,
and
absolutely.
If you want to try to get your book out to the occult community, Western esoteric community, those two are yeah.
What was the other one by Eliphas Levi?
It's called High Magic.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that one a few times too.
Look up even Practical Kabbalah
Yeah,
with Gareth Knight,
yeah, that's a good one.
because that has the paths in it. Not many books do the paths.
Yeah.
Yeah, the paths are just equally as important as
Yeah,
as
yeah,
the
that's why I
Sephiroth.
like to.
I was actually, when I was reading the Emerald Tablets of Filthy Atlantean, which a lot of people have like a different opinion on that and whatnot, which I think as far as like those kind of texts are, you don't really throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't really think he went to some pyramid and found some fucking stone, and that's what I think he probably channeled this information, or is probably writing esoteric information like in a sacred text format. But anyways, nonetheless, when he's in the chapter explaining what does he call them, the halls of a mentee, he's saying like 32 sons of light that are with man but not of man. I'm like thinking like, oh shit, 22 paths plus 10 Sephiroth.
10 Sephiroth.
And then he said
32.
he's being led through the halls of a mentee, and then he said he's seeing all these masters, and then he sees one master appear out of nowhere, and I'm like, oh shit, that's Doth. So basically, he says when that happens, he's granted like the key of immortality. And if you know about like the tree of life and the Sephiroth, you see that the Sephiroth Doth is one that appears within the abyss, and that's basically giving you like an ego death, so you can kind of like merge with the Godhead, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? If you know, you know.
Oh yeah. If you know, you know, and if you don't know, you'll get stuck as a black brother.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's actually Crowley says that himself too, doesn't he?
Oh yeah. The Black Brotherhood. Yeah. Because if you're not willing to give up your ego, you cannot cross the abyss, and you'll be eaten alive by Khoranzan, and then you'll be stuck as a black brother who hoards knowledge. That's the idea. You have to give up your knowledge so you can actually merge with true knowledge, which is Bana, right? That understanding merging with Chokmah of wisdom, because they come together. And I think that's, and again, so we all understand out there as the audience, is like, this isn't just a linear path thing. They all explode into the all things. It's 1 in 10 at all one times as we work through these things. So.
And to bring it back to psychedelics and plant medicine, this is why when you're stripped of your ego and you're doing these like plant medicine ceremonies, or people have bad trips, is because, like we said, like you are confronted with the self, you know what I mean? So that there's like a correspondence there, you know what I mean? Like if you're not willing to give up like your attachments to the material, which could be in the form of trauma, or could be in the form of, you know, material desires and stuff like that, you're gonna be lost. Basically, you're gonna have a bad trip. You're gonna have a very, very bad time having a confrontation with your subconscious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I want to comment too. Everyone knows Gridless asked this out here. If I've read the Greer's translation of the Doctrine and Ritual of High Magic, because that's the one I'm talking to you about, the Doctrine and Ritual of High Magic. Because Greer John Michael Greer did a translation, and the first translation was Arthur Edward Waite's translation of the Golden Dawn Magician, and so both of them are good. Waite's is a tough read because of the translation and how he writes. He's not the greatest writer, and so it gets a little jarbled at times. But Greer's translation of that is fantastic. And I recommend both reading it, always read things, but the Audible, I have a big lawn, and so I'll listen to things on Audible, and I've listened to that one on Audible as I've been mowing the lawn, and I've had my own epiphanies, lawn mowing epiphanies while reading Levy's work. So
That's probably the best time to be listening to that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
because when you're doing like just random task work that like doesn't really take much brain work to do, you kind of get into like this meditative state where it's like a lot more suggestive and you can intake information much better. You know, that's why a lot of people
Yes.
get good ideas in the shower and stuff like that.
oh yeah, I've had brilliant ideas mowing the lawn. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
That is true.
I have a question for everybody from the chat. This is from Homestead Tradwife. She wants to know, what is your go-to book for energy work, specifically healing the heart chakra?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Healing
I
heart
read a
chakra.
really good book, Ancient Secrets of the Flower of Life. There's 2 parts to it. It's by Drunvala Melchizedek. It's super dense because it's based on like years of his lectures or something like that. But basically, it's all about living in the heart space. Or actually, that's another book of his. But he teaches you that in order to basically complete your Merkaba, you have to basically like anchor yourself into your heart chakra. But that's a really good book, but it's very complex and very left brain, like very logical. You know what I mean? But as far as
Stilo, that's so funny that you bring that up. That the Flower of Life book is like that was one of the first books I actually read. I went to a workshop of his, and so my audience knows, and I'm actually coming out with a deep dive into that with Frater, because we did a whole Frater RC. We did a whole talk on Maynard James Keenan and the band Tool, because I am a high priest of the Tool army, whether people like that or not. It's just the way it is. And the Flower of Life was actually the book that led me on my journey. And I'm going to be 100% honest, that book was monumental for me, the 2 books in the Merkaba meditation itself.
Yeah.
Drunvala Melchizedek is a fucking charlatan and a liar. And so that is really important to know, that people like Drunvala, and what he came back to was that he brought up a book called The Flower of Life by Drunvala Melchizedek, and it has and my first tattoo is a Flower of Life tattoo that I got when I was 19 years old, 20 years old, because of that book specifically and my experiences with LSD and the band Tool. And that is what I had a very death. I died and I was reborn from that experience of listening to a Tool album and Rosetta Stone on 4 hits of high dosage of that. And so I completely agree that was a really that book, it tells you to, everything must be rooted in the heart chakra. The heart itself is a toroidal field that has its own electromagnetic grid around your body. Then your brain also has one, but your heart is bigger than that one. And so I think that's a really important understanding. But Drunvalo stole that work from Dan Winter, the Flower of Life Sacred Geometry work from Dan Winter, as well as many other people. And so in that book, he comments Graham Hancock, as well as all these other characters that he's amalgamating this work from. And he's a Melchizedek, and that order, actually, what I learned from Frater, I knew this before, but Frater RC and I talked about it, is that's from the Alpha et Omega order in Vancouver. It's like its own spiritual New Age or institution in Vancouver, and that's where Drunvalo Melchizedek went to do those things. And so the whole story of Drunvalo is that he originally was a guy by the name of Bernard Perona, and he had a walk-in experience of this Melchizedekian order consciousness came into him, and as like a budding, a psychonaut myself in my younger 20s, late teens, and then all of a sudden, as your mind is melting and you're listening to these things and whatnot, it's easy to fall into those things. And then the more you read and the more you get into the ancients and philosophy and these things, you start to see it's like, okay, a lot of this stuff was taken and then amalgamized into this book so he could sell courses and sell workshops and do these and get a whole following. And now Drunvalo lives in Sedona on his multi-million-dollar mansion on the bedrock of a bunch of hippies and their money that he took from them. So I think great. I think it's hilarious that you brought that up, but it was a very important book. But again,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Would you
what is
say?
the
Let me ask you something. Would you say the same
Yeah.
thing about J.J. Hertak?
J.J. Hertek? I know that name too.
He's the dude that wrote the Book of Knowledge, the Keys of Enoch.
I have that book. That's good. Okay, I bought that book. I got that book gifted to me. It's like a $400 book. I got it for like 200 some bucks. I think that is very similar, but he's on a higher order. I think that book's really good.
Okay, I haven't dove into it yet. You can, by the way, you can get it on its website for like $50 if you just go to the website instead of buying it like secondhand from like Amazon or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Because I got a first edition of it, and so that's why it was
nice.
so expensive. I think that book is also, it's got too much flowery language and abstract words, and so and so it's like one of these things where I think there is a lot of knowledge in there, and I do believe in the whole. We're going through different veils, right? The Aeon of Osiris into the Aeon of Horus. Our Earth is changing. Human consciousness is moving through these paradigms and these different things. But the problem with it is then now it's leading a bunch of kids into this idea that they don't have to build their finances, that they don't have to actually build themselves into something that can have a family. Like where you can be, you need to, that goes back into, you need to build yourself up in a way where you realize that you may have to pay off your student loans. I don't know, of what I see that our world
it goes
is
back
changing.
like to what you said about grounding yourself in physical reality.
That's
it's
exactly
almost like
it.
you have to ground yourself in physical reality. If not, it's almost like there's this neglect or this denial of physical reality where you're just going to be like in la la land. You know what I mean? And it's very much like those people that are just like, jobless yoga teachers.
That's what I'm saying.
Whatever the next thing they can muck money off of, is,
Yeah, it's called Peter Panning, and if you forever just start chasing after Tinkerbell, then you will never find your own, feminine or masculine that's there to like help merge yourself. That's what it's called. It's like Tinkerbell is the outward expression of porn culture.
Do you think that, to get into the conspiracy side, do you think that's a psyop that got kind of co-opted into the New Age community, or do you think it's just something of within itself? Because we can't have all these people just discovering the true nature of themselves,
Both.
Yeah.
I think you have delusional people, and I think you have people that are put here to start new ideas that will take off.
Yeah. That's why I hate Billy Carson.
Yeah, dude. He's definitely a what do you call that? There's a term for it.
A used car salesman, a grifter, a charlatan.
It's something where they put a little bit of truth, but then they also put like some bullshit in there too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
shit than truth. Sorry.
Yeah. That's so funny, Judith. No, it's so true. No, it's fascinating. But the problem is not problem. It's the truth, because it led me, like the flower of life. It led me to now with you guys. It led me to finding people through time, and it led me to my own practices, to my own integration of, say, like Golden Dawn practice, with my own ceremonial magic, not just the Golden Dawn, but they got their stuff from somewhere. This golden thread that Jocelyn Godwin talks about, or, the secret history of all ages, as Manly P. Hall talks about. But then integrating for me, like I'm a Kung Fu practitioner and a mixed martial artist. And so it's like I integrate these other practices from the East into my practice, because, it's syncretic. It's like, why not? If it calls to you, and if you can build it up, because what's the best way to, in my mind, how can I defeat the Google cyborg AI robots? And that's the only way, is to become a Jedi myself. And so it's like, build out my light body. That's what Drunvalo is talking about. How do you build a Merkaba, which comes from Jewish mysticism, the chariot that's going to help Ezekiel lead himself to the heavens?
Exactly.
Well, that's what the light. That's what we're all trying to do, is try to build the light body. It's like the rainbow body, the diamond body.
Feminine,
That's the 5-6 initiation in the Golden Dawn. It's like the pentagram before me and the hexagram behind me. You're right, like this, like.
And I think it's very important to have discernment at this level too, because when you mention Billy Carson, it reminded me of like people like Deepak Chopra, where it's like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater thing, because it's like there's a lot of good things they have to offer, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know, this dude's in the Epstein files talking about like girls, you know, like little girls and stuff like that. So it's like, I think discernment is important to when you're getting to like this high level of like learning, like, you know, the nature of reality and esoteric knowledge and whatnot, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And then the term that I was thinking of is called spiritual bypassing. It's very easy to think you're becoming more spiritual and religious, but really what you're doing is you're bypassing the actual work, and you think it's spiritual, and you think you're enlightened. You know, we all see it. There's that like dread-headed hippie girl who's like kind of like wearing this scandalous clothing, and yet she's like rubbing crystals all over herself, thinking she's an enlightened descended master of some reptilian Arcadian race. You know, it's like that's and then people fall for that, you know, and they fall for it because we're looking for something that's going to help give our life meaning, which is like, again, it goes back to why like Magus in the Media, why Joseph Campbell, like myth, magic, and meaning in a postmodern world is hard, but it's there so we can really be able to grow, I think, fast. And I think that's something that is interesting that's going on in our world, is that we are finding ourselves in a new renaissance. At the same time, we're finding ourselves within the dystopian hellscape of Palantir and Oracle as it's building its AI data centers that are trying to entrap our astral bodies into this world so we can't continue the metempsychosis process. That's my big conspiracy. That's what Starlink and that's what the AI data centers are. It's like they're here to basically kill our spiritual bodies while also thinking that we're going to ascend into a higher transhumanist race.
Is it killing our? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Is it killing our astral bodies, or is it distracting?
That's a good question. There is a difference. I think, okay, I like that, because killing would mean that it's dead and dead forever. Right. Nice. I like that. I would say distraction then, yes. Or imprisoning, right? It goes back to the Gnostics. It could be imprisoning.
Well, it's almost like we're at a point in time where, like, you know, Gnosticism and ideas like this, the nature of reality, are very mainstream. And I think the whole metaverse and trying to get us into this trapped into this simulation is trying to get us into a simulation within the simulation, because like I said, I think we're at a time where a lot of people are understanding that they can not really exit the simulation as they will, but understand that it is a simulation and therefore make their own reality of it. And that's definitely not what they want. They'd rather have, if you want to do whatever you want, go ahead and put on this VR headset. You can go anywhere in the world. You can have sex with anybody you want. You can do anything. And it's like, well, they don't want us realizing that we can do that with our consciousness. If we can learn to project, astral project, and lucid dream, and not only that, but eventually change the physical reality around us as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful.
They want to sell us the shortcut, which is eventually going to be a prison, in my opinion.
Shortcuts don't work.
Yeah,
they never work.
No, they don't.
It comes with a price.
Everything comes with a price.
Yeah.
And that price sometimes is too heavy.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there anything else that maybe you wanted to plug about the show or talk about? Anything specific? We're already over an hour now. I was thinking maybe wrapping it up soon.
Nah, not really. I think I'm good. I think I was gonna say just getting on the topic of like simulation theory. I kind of talked about this on my Tinfoil Hat podcast when I was on with those guys, but I think simulation theory is so popular now, especially like the Matrix and stuff like that, which is why I think it gets compared to Gnosticism and stuff like that. This is just the secret doctrine, the perennial philosophy repackaged into computer terms. You know what I mean? Like simulation theory is Kabbalah, is Gnosticism, is Hermeticism, because all these traditions tell you that there is this real world that we're not really seeing it for what it really is, but we're seeing it through this lens, these doors of perception, so to speak. You know what I mean? And it's funny because I believe that computers and all that kind of stuff is built off of the nature of reality, because I was having this download one time and it was like, okay, like if the Akashic Records is kind of like binary code, but like in frequencies and stuff like that, like whoever invented the idea or discovered the idea of binary code had to be a theosophist. I thought that. And I looked it up and it was this dude named Gottfried Leibniz, and he's a fucking theosophist. And the reason why he came up with binary code was he was trying to figure out how to explain the nature of reality and how you can explain, you know, like left, right, or, you know, making decisions and describe it in an actual pattern. And he got the idea from studying the I Ching.
Yeah,
which is like
that's
a Chinese divination system.
Yeah, the I Ching. The I Ching is a Taoist book, the book of changes. And so because yin and yang are based off of 1 and 0s, and so the whole 8 trigrams, which equates to the 64 hexagrams, is based upon the book of changes. So it's all about change. Interesting enough, in our Western world, we've taken the yin and the yang, and now we've made it into a binary coding system that everything works off
Yep.
of. But what the problem is we've dialecticized it, where now it's become a static thing instead of the dynamic process of change that the Taoists in their Tai Chi practice, because that's what Tai Chi is based upon, is that practice. And Leibniz himself, who's one of the great idealist philosophers of our like Enlightenment period, he was a monad theorist. So he believed in the monad, and that's so I highly recommend. For a while, like Leibniz and Spinoza. Leibniz created calculus. In these things, and so he's a fascinating theorist. But the Taoist I Ching, the Book of Changes is the book of the heart. To go back to the heart, interesting enough, it's very similar to Nick, the 777. And how the theory of correspondences is the ever-changing theory of corresponding natures of reality, and that's what the book, and that's what the Book of Changes is about. It's the book of causation, and so yeah.
So we wouldn't have computers if we didn't have binary code. We wouldn't have binary codes if we had Leibniz, and we wouldn't have Leibniz if he wasn't studying the I Ching. You know what I mean?
And the
it's
I
all
Ching,
full circle.
Yeah, and the I Ching came from the Chinese, and Fu Xing created or discovered, not created. He discovered the I Ching. The story goes off the back of a tortoise shell.
Yes.
And so that was like 6,000 years ago in the Chinese Empire.
Oh, Judith, I was going to say, didn't you actually have questions from people on the chat that we were actually getting to before we wrapped it up? I think I might have stopped.
I did ask one.
Yeah.
You stepped away when I asked one. And the other one, I think Brandon saw, and he answered himself.
Yeah. I think one of them was what? Chakras and energy work?
Yes.
Yep,
that's how we got back to the heart.
That's how we got to the heart, and we started talking about the flower of life.
My suggestion, I guess, just real quick, I'll give like 2 books. The Wheels of Time, I think is the Wheels. Oh my God.
It's The Wheel of Life.
Yes.
Wheel of Life. Right there.
There.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if I can get that in there.
Yeah, I would say that, and believe it or not, what I do think helped me, Between the Gates by
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, Mark Stavish.
Yeah, Mark Stavish is a brilliant writer. I really like Mark Stavish.
Yeah, I think those 2 books could help with energy stuff and chakras.
Yeah.
I'll just keep it simple. So, was there any and then whatever you were going to say, Judith?
No, actually, okay. As for the book, I'm with The Wheel of Life. I'm going to check out the second one you mentioned. But my comment was more for the wording of the language of the simulation, that language.
Yeah.
And I look at it as just a way to get the masses to act predictably.
Yeah.
Because you tell someone you're in a simulation, automatically, whether they realize it or not, they go into gamer mode. And they go into gamer mode, and that's how they interact in life.
Yeah, Ready Player One.
So if you put this language out there, that's how everybody's moving. You could predict how everybody's going to move. And no one wants to think as an individual. All they want to do is make sure they're not an NPC.
Yeah, if you tell them it's a game, they're all going to want to play.
Yeah, I like that. I like the idea. And I always consider we have to go back to, if we're talking about simulation, we have to go back to Plato, right? In the cave.
Oh, yeah.
And understanding that exactly. And so understanding that we are all but mere representations of the forms and the good. And that when we interact with the world, we're interacting again with just not even a projection, but just we're interacting. And it goes back to exactly what I said. We're interacting with our own perceptions. And so the simulation, if we understand it in a way that we are, until we become, a term that I am trying to push, a sovereign magician, till we become an agent of our own world, that we are then an agent of somebody else's. And if we are agents of somebody else's, that means that what they put into our nervous system in this closed loop system, that then we are going to then project through our own perceptual actions exactly what they want us to. And so that's why we have to become our own sovereign magician, lover, warrior, king, philosophers. And when we can do that, then we are the ones creating the world and discovering the things that are always there. And it's the beauty of God within and without at the same time, instead of the fucking dystopian oracle palantir system of the dark sorcerer techno-feudalists in this very plain material worldview that they want us to think that we're living in.
Hey man, as within, so without. You know, if you want to change the world around you, change your inside. You know, that's what I like to. You know, that's what I like to end my show with a lot of the time. Like 90% of the time, that's what I'll end my show with. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. It's beautiful.
All right. Before we wrap it up, Judith, did you have anything else? Or no? You good? No.
Not right now. I do have to ask Stelio, what do you have coming up on your show? I'm curious after this discussion.
So if anyone wants to tune in, we film our episodes live every Sunday. So tomorrow we will be live at 5 p.m. PST on YouTube. If you want to subscribe to us on YouTube, we're going to be talking with 6G Agenda Podcast about Agartha. He actually does like a lot of conspiracy more centered topics, but we're going to go esoteric for this one. So he goes deep on all his information. So that'll be super cool. But that's what we got coming up. And that's about it. We kind of do our show like very on the fly. You know what I mean? So we book our guests like the week of. We film it the week of. And then we put it out the next week. And then sometimes I'll do like lives where it'll be like just myself and another guest throughout the week. But those will kind of just be like get released like later. But we do a show every Sunday. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about Agartha, Inner Earth, probably Blavatsky and all that kind of stuff. So it'd be pretty fun.
Nice.
Sounds good. Yeah, I got to get in touch with that dude again. I haven't.
Yeah, let me know if you want me to link you up. I'll go ahead and
tell him to hit me up again. Yeah, because I was supposed to actually get him on the show. All right. So Judith, before we wrap it up, why don't you let everybody know what's up with you and your stuff, please?
I as usual, everyone could catch me at the weekly brunch every Sunday. It's pre-recorded now. It's not live, but we got a couple of live shows planned up the river, right, Nick?
Oh, yes. No, there's actually two topics that I definitely do want to do with you. I've been meaning yes. So it's definitely happening because I'm actually psyched to talk about
and
this.
I'm still trying to work out everything with Brandon so we could do a show
Yes,
together.
Yes, we are.
So we could get that going around. And so you could find me on YouTube, X, and Spreaker as the Loon. Nick, again, thank you for having me. Brandon is always enlightening every time. And Stelio, I am looking forward to taking a few deep dives into your show. It's very interesting.
Yeah, thank you. And by the way, any three of you, if you guys ever want to chit chat and come on my show, you guys have an open door. Just hit me up and we'll get you on. We'll nail a topic down.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'd love to. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Brandon, please let everybody know what's up.
Beautiful. Thank you, Nick, as always. You know, there's only one cardinal electric head, and that is you, my friend. And I'm so grateful to be here. Judith, I love hanging out with you every time. Everyone, Judith's going to be making the hat she has on her head for the world. And if she doesn't, she should, because it's fucking awesome. Stelio, this has been fantastic. I do look forward to having a future conversation if it's not here on your own show. So
absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Beautiful. And everyone, if you haven't already, you know who I am, Brandon Lee of Magus in the Media, where we talk all things myth, magic, and meaning in the stories in the world that you love. I'm having my next interview dropping on Monday morning as well, as long as everything goes well. And that's with Frater Eleftheria. We had a great 2.5 hour long talk where we dig deep, and I asked him all the hard questions. And so he's a wonderful man, and I'm really excited to get that one out. If you haven't already, make sure you check out my last interview that I came out with Dr. Ian Edwards. That was a fantastic. We went deep in philosophy, phenomenology, Crowley, Austin Osman Spare. One before that was Alan Chapman, which is a great 3.5 conversation where we dig deep into the great work and everything that he's doing. So as always, make sure everyone out there, you just tap deep in, root yourself down, and realize that we're heading into some crazy times. So thank you again.
Yes, we are.
I definitely think so. Thank you very much, Brandon. I always appreciate what you can make, man. Always do. Always. And Steelo, please let everybody know what's up and where they can find all your stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you want to follow me personally, just at Steelo Free, STEELO Free. That's my musician name. I haven't really been doing much music lately, but if you want to find my podcast, which I've been a little bit more active on, that's Outside Minds Podcast. You can find that Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on TikTok and Instagram. Yeah, like I said, we go live every Sunday. It's been great hanging out with you guys, and thanks for having me on. And shout out to everybody in the chat.
Of course. No, that was a great chat. Definitely have to get you back on. I would like to get you back on to talk about Rosicrucianism, actually.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah. That's what I've been deep diving lately, so I'd love to.
Yeah, that's for me. It's fun to talk about it. Even though I've done it a few times, still always interesting to me. But again, thank you very much for coming on. Had a great chat. For the people, for the listeners, people listening or watching, I think when it comes to people kind of looking at conspiracies from a more not as biased and is into the occult, definitely go check out his show.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's why I was very kind of interested in getting you on, because there's not too many of yous out there like
True.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, no, it's like if you're a conspiracy theorist, it's like you have to shit on the occult all the time.
Yeah. Have you talked to Jonathan, the Metamystics?
Yeah, I've had him on before. And I've been on Cult of Conspiracy before. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, actually,
cool,
you know what? John's another one that I was supposed to give him a date, and I think I never got back to him.
We should do a panel with him, man. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to. He's a cool dude. I like him. He's very nice guy. He's funny too. Yeah. But yeah, no, thank you very much, Steelo, for coming on. And again, like I said, hopefully we'll get you on again in the future. We'll talk about some Rosicrucianism. And everybody in the chat, that's what's up. I loved all the comments. Thank you. And the questions and everything. And Judith and Brandon, thank you again. And until the next one, everybody be well.